Hello, my name is Mathias and welcome to the FPL weekend walkthrough where we take a look at this weekend's Premier League games through an FPL perspective. And it's been a pretty interesting Gameweek 28, a blank game week, so there were only 7 matches this week, but there were a lot of eventful matches, so there's still a lot to talk about. And we can just start straight off the top with Brentford against Leicester, one of the more interesting fixtures in terms of fantasy, because a lot of people have Brentford players, some people went for Leicester players, and there were some semi-popular Leicester picks that were actually benched from start. And I'm talking about, of course, Danny Ward and Kelechi Iheanacho. Some people had punted on them. Some people had brought in Danny Ward and Robert Sanchez on a wild card a couple game weeks ago. Wonder who that could be. Me. But anyways, so those guys who have Ward and Iheanacho probably need to move on from them now. So that was clear already before the match that they weren't starters anymore, or at least they didn't start this match. And Iheanacho only came on for 1 minute, and Ward obviously stayed on the bench for the whole match, with Everton playing the whole match for Leicester in goal. Either way, the match was actually pretty uneventful. It was pretty lackluster in terms of goals and XG as well. As you can see, 0.64 XG for Brentford, 1.35 XG for Leicester. Pretty even game. Brentford were the better team in the first half and took the lead. Leicester were the better team in the second half. And even though both goals came in the first half as well. So for Leicester, they benched some interesting FPL options, but one of the even more interesting FPL option, James Maddison, played from start and actually got a goal return finally. He got an assist, which felt huge in this game week because there were not a lot of returns except for one particular team that we'll get to eventually. But either way, it was Brentford that drew first blood and got the first goal. They had a really elaborate set-piece move like they usually do, and the ball ended up with Mbeumo on the wing, and he passed it in to Ivan Toney, and if the pass would have been slightly better, Ivan Toney would have had an easy tap-in for a goal. So anyone that captained Toney should count themselves unlucky, like me again. But anyways, Ivan Toney couldn't get a shot off, but the ball went into Toney and then into a Leicester defender and ended up with Mathias, who shot it, and the ball ricocheted off 3 different defenders. It was going wide, then it hit one defender, another defender, and then hit the goalkeeper again, Everton, who was outplayed and couldn't really save it because it was so many deflections. But anyway, it looked like it was a clear own goal, but this time, unlike last game week, where they changed from a Solly March goal to just an own goal, they didn't change this goal. So the goal for Jensen actually stood, and he got credited with the goal and got all the FPL points from it, even though he shouldn't have. Meanwhile, Solly March last week was robbed of his goal. So again, justice for Solly March. He needs to get his goal back, but it's too late. There's nothing to worry about in terms of Solly March points because it's in the past, so let's just move on either way. But Leicester, they got back into the game, and they were actually much better in the second half. But before then, in the first half, I think still, if I remember correctly, Harvey Barnes scored. Harvey Barnes has been a differential option himself, cheaper version of James Maddison, and James Maddison put a really nice pass through to Barnes, who slotted it home perfectly, 1-1, and then in the second half, Leicester were the much better side. So Brentford, pretty disappointing for Toney owners. He had the chance before the 1-1 or 1-0 goal, and he had another chance slightly after that where he didn't get a shot off either, but it was a really nice cross of the ball, and then Ricardo Pereira only just managed to clear it in front of Toney. So that wasn't registered as XG for Toney, so that's why you can't see him on the top 3 expected goal involvement. But he had 2 different chances where he didn't get to shoot, but he was really close to scoring. So not the worst for Toney, but I expected a more open match. And then at the end of the match, Baptiste got a red card for Brentford. And I was actually looking at a different game as it was happening, and Toney was my captain, if you didn't gather that I felt like he should have had more points. But anyways, I was looking away, and then when I look back on the Brentford-Leicester match, I see the referee coming up with a yellow card for Toney, and I was like, oh no, he gets a suspension, oh no. And then he pulls off the yellow card, or the red card as well. And I hadn't noticed Toney getting a yellow card before, so I was super surprised. And I was like, oh no, red card for my captain and the ban for the future games and all that stuff. But turns out the red card was for Baptiste, and the referee just gave it right next to Toney as well. So it looked like Toney had been sent off, and my heart was in my throat for a little bit. But luckily for Toney owners, it wasn't a red card, but he still ended up with 2 points. So a major disappointment in terms of captaincy for me, but most of you guys didn't captain them, so you don't care. So let's just move on to the next match. So I expected Brentford and Leicester to be like a goal fest with goals for both teams, a lot of goals for both teams, and I expected Southampton Spurs to be more of a 1-1 type of affair, but it was actually reversed because Southampton against Spurs ended up with 3-3 and high XG for both teams. And part of the reason for that is that Southampton got 2 players injured straight away or pretty early in the match. Both Bella Kotchap and Jan Bednarek, both centre-backs for Southampton, went off with injuries, and they had to play Maitland-Niles in defence, and so they were kind of hampered by that defensively, and Tottenham took advantage of that and scored some nice goals. First goal for Spurs was a really nice goal from Pedro Porro, a great pass from Heung-min Son, and Porro gets it on the far post, and rather than going a cross goal, which would have been an easy finish, he just fires it straight up into the top bins, into the near post, and scores the opening goal for Spurs. And it was a really nice goal. Like I used to say, or I tend to say, he Gabbiadini'd the ball, because that's what I remember Gabbiadini from in Premier League. He played against West Ham, who was my favorite team, and he scored a goal just like that, where he just shot it top corner in the near post. It was a really nice goal. So he reminded me of that with Pedro Porro. But Porro himself, great option. He gets a lot forward. He, as you can see, has the highest expected goal involvement out of all the Spurs players. More than Kane, more than Son. He's looking really good. And looking at his stats, the last 3 matches that he started, he's matching Ben Chilwell in terms of output, both in terms of FPL points and in terms of goals and assists and numbers as well, underlying stats, expected goals, all that stuff. He's really similar to Chilwell, despite being more than $1 million cheaper and having really good fixtures, because a lot of people have Kane because he has good fixtures, even though they don't have a double, but you can make the same case for Porro, that he's a great option as well, especially considering he's so cheap and likely nailed, because Conte really likes his own players, as you could see on the press conference after the match. But anyways, the match was really entertaining. Goals from both sides. Southampton brought it back 1-1 right after the break. Walcott played really well against Spurs, typically from him. And Che Adams scored the 1-1 goal. But then Spurs went up 3-1. First, a Harry Kane goal. Of course, he's had to score against Southampton, even though he didn't really do that much in the game. But he had a really nice goal. A cross from Kulusevski, headed home from Kane. Then a little bit later, Kulusevski had another good cross. Kulusevski actually looked the best he's looked for a long time, because he's had a kind of disappointing season. But anyways, Kulusevski came on early for Richarlison, who also got injured. Ben Davies also got injured for Spurs, so there were 4 injuries early on in the match, which was kind of strange. But anyways, the 3-1 goal for Spurs was Perisic's first goal. He didn't celebrate, which was kind of weird, but anyway, he got his first goal, and 3-1. Looked like Spurs were going to take it home, going to be an easy win, but then they let Southampton back into the match. Walcott scores, and then they get a controversial penalty, and Ward-Prowse slots it home, 3-3. And that led to the now infamous Antonio Conte press conference after the game, where he slated the whole Spurs team, the whole club, basically. He was begging to be sacked, and to be honest, I think Spurs should give him what he wants and just sack him, because it's clearly not working. He's a serial winner that is nowhere near winning anything. So yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about that, but that's not FPL related, so we'll talk about that in a different context, I guess. Anyways, that was Southampton against Spurs. Moving on, Aston Villa against Bournemouth. A much easier game for the home team. Aston Villa with a decisive 3-0 win against Bournemouth. Bournemouth looked really like nothing. Aston Villa were all over them, scored straight away after like 7 minutes. A lot of people put faith in Ollie Watkins, and Watkins looked decent here and there, but it was actually Douglas Luiz scoring in like a Ollie Watkins position for the first goal. A great cross from Leon Bailey, and Douglas Luiz was right in front of goal and scored an easy goal. 1-0 for them. And then the second goal in the second half, Watkins actually got an assist, so it was he headed it down for Jacob Ramsey. Ramsey brought it through the defense and shot it past the goalkeeper. Really nice goal as well from Ramsey. And then finally they had another corner. It was crossed in. Danny Mings, not Danny Mings, Danny Ings. I'm saying Tyrone Mings headed it back, and Buendia headed it across the line. So Mings ended up with an assist, and Aston Villa were the only team to keep a clean sheet this weekend, which was kind of crazy. You didn't expect it to be Aston Villa out of all teams, but they did face Bournemouth, and they have actually that's actually the third clean sheet they have in the last 4 matches. Now, granted, they've faced some of the easier teams to get clean sheets against, but still, they proved that against the lesser teams, they can easily keep clean sheets. And Aston Villa are starting to get it going under Emery, looking better and better each game. And yeah, Watkins didn't get a goal. He got an assist only, 5 points, but he easily also could have had a penalty after 38 minutes. It was a pretty clear shout for handball that was not given by the ref or VAR. That easily could have been a penalty for Watkins. So he easily could have outscored Havertz, who was like sort of like the main guy people were debating between Havertz and Watkins. But anyways, not the best for Watkins, but 5 points is decent from him. And yeah, clean sheet for Mings and an assist, 12 points for him. He's been a really good asset as well, so 4.3. They don't have the best fixtures going forward in terms of not conceding chances. Like they have Chelsea and Leicester. You expect both of those teams to score against Aston Villa, but still, Mings is a great option if you want just a cheap defender to have on the bench mostly, and sometimes getting points for you. Bournemouth didn't really create much, looking like clear relegation candidates, as it says down there in the bottom. And yeah, just a difficult game for them after they surprisingly beat Aston Villa early in the season at home, but away really struggled and didn't really create much. Aston Villa were the much better side and won decisively. Then the best team did not win actually in the Wolverhampton-Leeds game, but the problem for Wolverhampton was that they kept making so many mistakes, as it says there. They kept doing a lot of stuff that went up costing them, or happened to cost them. The 2-0 goal, especially Corner and Ayling, was just completely open on the back post and scored. Before then, they took the lead with Jack Harrison. Again, I've been talking about Jack Harrison the last few weeks in terms of FPL as well. It's been really good since Javi Gracia took over for Leeds, and he scored a really nice goal. Gnonto got the chance from start and went down the wing and crossed it in. Really beautiful ball, or beautiful normal cross, really, but like a textbook cross is what I'm trying to say, to Jack Harrison, who easily just scored a really nice goal. And then, like I said, Ayling scored, and Leeds actually went up 3-0 as well with a very rare Rasmus Christensen goal. He was one of the players in preseason that I was really excited for, because he's like tall, he's going forward. He kind of looked like a new Marcos Alonso type of player, but he's never really gotten it going for Leeds, but he showed what he's capable of with the 3-0 goal. But anyways, from that point on, Wolves almost brought it back. They scored a really strange goal from Johnny Otto, who scored like from far, far away after Melee came out to clear a pass, or clear a through ball. Johnny Otto slotted it home from 30, 35, 40 yards. And then Cunha scored pretty soon after that as well, a deflection goal. It looked like Wolverhampton were getting back into the match, but then they got a red card. A really silly challenge from Johnny Otto, who actually scored the first goal, but then got a red card. He got sent off. Craig Dawson should have been sent off earlier in the match as well. And Wolverhampton should have had a penalty early in the match too, but it wasn't given. It was a way clearer penalty than what Southampton got against Spurs, but Wolverhampton didn't get it, so they were kind of screwed by the ref, but they also made a lot of mistakes. Like I said, Dawson could have been sent off. And then, like I said, Johnny Otto got sent off as well, and even Mathias Cunha after the game got sent off, even though he didn't play. So we ended up with -3 points in FPL, even though he didn't partake in the match, which is kind of strange. So, but not that many people have him. But anyways, Leeds managed to secure the 4-2 win at the end with Rodrigo. Again, he's back and he scored and he's looking decent. Bamford didn't really do much in this game. Rodrigo came on and scored, and I wonder if that is going to lead to Rodrigo starting next match, which would make him a good differential option as well. So if you're free hitting in Gameweek29, I think either Harrison or Rodrigo is a really nice punt from Leeds. But anyways, that's Leeds. That's the first matches. And now let's go to the more highlighted matches, the matches that happened on Friday, Saturday evening, and Sunday. Starting with the standout match of the week, and that was Arsenal against Crystal Palace, the final match of the game week. And the standout player for Arsenal was by far Bukayo Saka. As you can see from the XGI, expected goal involvement, he didn't have that high numbers, but as we know from Saka, he's constantly overperforming his XGI. Scored 2 really nice goals, had an assist for Martinelli. Ended up with 18 points, a massive haul for those that captained him. Congratulations to all of you. Everyone that went for him rather than going with like the safer option in Kane. Personally, I prefer the Arsenal fixture. I ended up captaining Tony, but I prefer the Arsenal fixture because they had an easier match. It was at home, like easier opponent, and it was at home, and Arsenal are a better team than Spurs. So for me, it made more sense. I was actually going to captain Martinelli before he played 120 minutes in the Europa League, but I was scared I was going to be benched. But he actually started the match and played like 70 minutes, scored the opening goal. Martinelli is amazing. He's still a great option in FPL, even though Trossard is playing really well and Jesus is coming back. Martinelli is still, you don't have to sell him, but considering Saka was so good and you don't really want two Arsenal midfielders going forward, Martinelli might be the one to sell, but I think he's still a good option. Ødegaard, however, he ended up with the highest expected goal involvement, but he got only 2 points. He didn't get an assist, didn't get a goal, and his goal returns have been pretty lackluster lately, so I think Ødegaard is kind of a easy sell candidate going forward. But anyways, Trossard as well got decent XGI, and he actually got an assist as well. He's been getting a lot of goal involvement lately too, and he's looking really good. Arsenal in general just looked really good. We're the much better side, but it should be noted, Crystal Palace could have taken the lead pretty early. Wilfried Zaha, as you can see pictured, he went through on the left and went into the box and did a really good shot, a hard and low hitting shot that hit the post and then hit the back of Ramsdale and then somehow found its way outside the goal as well. I really thought it was going to be a goal and clean sheet would be wiped off. The clean sheet would be wiped off eventually for Arsenal on a corner. Jeffrey Schlupp took down the ball. I think he may have hit his hand, but they weren't the best camera angles, so the goal stood even after a VAR check. But it didn't really hamper Arsenal, who just went on to score more goals. They were up 3-0 at that point. It became 3-1, and then Saka scored his second goal of the game to make it 4-1 for Arsenal. Really good result, and also really begs the question what to do with Arsenal players going forward, because they do have a single game week when a lot of teams have double game weeks in Gameweek 29, but the match they have is Leeds at home. And as you can see from the previous slide, Wolverhampton, like one of the lesser teams offensively this season, got 2.86 expected goal involvement or expected goals against Leeds. So considering what Arsenal can do, they must be getting a lot more. Even though they didn't get that much against Palace, 1.47, not that high, but Saka keeps outperforming the XGI and did so this match as well. Martinelli as well, nice goal. Xhaka scored the final goal for Arsenal as well. That was from the Trossard assist. And yeah, Arsenal just looked really good. They look like championship or champion material, not championship, but Premier League champions material. So yeah, they looked really good, and Saka looked amazing as well. So Saka's probably one to keep, even though a lot will be tempted to sell him for Fernandes, but most people have enough money in the bank to upgrade a different midfielder to Fernandes. So anyways, moving on to the Friday game. This was a huge highlight for me, considering I brought in Isak, didn't go for Watkins, didn't go for Havertz. I went for Isak because he was slightly cheaper and he was going to play 90 minutes this time because Wilson was not really fit to play. Isak had to play the whole 90 minutes. He performed super well again. He's such an amazing player to watch, such an amazing player in general. Scored a really nice goal right before the half after Nottingham Forest took the lead. A lot of people are disappointed to see the double Newcastle clean sheet go away early on. Sven Botman, who a lot of people have in their teams, messed up majorly, passed it straight into Emmanuel Dennis, who did really well and took his chance really well and scored the opening goal for Forest. But Newcastle changed or turned the game around, scored right before the half. They scored again pretty close after the half. Should also be noted that Isak scored the goal off of the left wing. Like, he was put on the left wing and Saint-Maximin was playing as a striker for a while in the first half. But then at the half, Saint-Maximin got subbed off. I think his name is Elliot Anderson, came on, a youngster from Newcastle. And he scored a beautiful goal after a magnificent Isak assist. Isak showed off his footwork. It did really well. Crossed it over to Anderson, who headed it home. Everyone thought Newcastle would be up 2-1, but VAR came and ruined everyone's fun, as always. Found the silliest of reasons to take away the goal. It was offside on Longstaff, even though Longstaff barely touched the ball after. It was a cross from Isak before the cross that led to the goal. He crossed it into the box, and then it was, I can't remember exactly which defender it was. I think it was Felipe. Managed to knock the ball away, and it went towards Longstaff, who was offside when Isak played the ball into the box, but the ball was going nowhere close to Longstaff. And then before the ball even hit Longstaff, Renan Lodi got into the ball and hit the ball into Longstaff and back to Isak again. So I don't know. I think if that goal is disallowed, the rules should be changed. But apparently was according to the rules, even though we've seen countless examples of offsides not counting when there's a pass going through and a defender barely gets a touch on it. I remember a couple of seasons ago, there was a pass, it was Spurs against Liverpool, and a pass through towards Harry Kane, who was like a yard offside. But Lovren tried to stretch for the ball. He touched the ball, but the ball still went through to Kane, and Kane scored, and that goal stood, even though they had VAR. And another famous example is also from the Nations League final when France played against Spain, or was it the semi-final? I can't remember, but in the Nations League, like knockout stages, there was a pass through to Mbappe, who was, again, 1 yard offside. And I think it was Mark Bartra, or it was some other defender. But yeah, some defender from Spain did his best to stop the ball, didn't manage to stop the ball from going through to Mbappe, and Mbappe, even though it was offside, scored. And then the offside didn't count because apparently there was a new stage of play because the Spain defender hit the ball. But somehow this didn't apply for the Newcastle goal, which is really stupid. So seeing as I had Isak, I do have skin in the game, so maybe you should take this with a pinch of salt. Maybe it's just sour grapes. But either way, it worked out perfectly in the end for Isak owners as well, because he won a penalty right at the end in injury time. Stepped up to take the penalty as well. A lot of people thought Trippier would take the penalty because he was standing with the ball, but he was just doing what they do now, and that's having the captain or like a main player stand with the ball at the penalty spot to make sure that the defensive team is not messing up the penalty spot, and any abuse that Trippier gets doesn't really matter because he's not taking the pen anyway. Isak took the pen, scored it. He's a pen taker for Newcastle. He's the main pen taker. Depends. Maybe if Callum Wilson plays alongside him, Wilson takes it because Wilson has a better track record in terms of penalties. But Isak at least took the pen this time because Wilson stayed on the bench the whole match, and Isak slotted it home. Got 13 lovely points. Amazing for him, and he's proven again that he can play 90 minutes for Newcastle as a striker. Eddie Howe had some comments previously that in his system, Isak can't play 90 minutes, but Isak surely proved him now that he can play 90 minutes. So I expect Isak to be playing most matches going forward, starting and playing 70 minutes plus, at least. And yeah, he's just a great option for FPL. So if you have Tony, I would consider switching because Tony is that yellow card away. So I forgot to mention that as well with Tony. He was really close to getting a yellow card and getting his 10th and 2-match ban for the double game week, but he barely escaped it after like a silly tackle. So that tells me he's not that aware of not doing tackles. He's still going to play his game and do whatever he likes and not worry too much about getting a yellow card. So I feel like a yellow card is right around the corner for Tony and a ban. So might be looking into selling him in terms of FPL, but there's still a lot of time before the deadline, so you don't really have to worry about that right now. So anyways, moving on to the final game of the weekend, Chelsea against Everton. A lot of people had faith in Chelsea in this game because they've been in better form lately. They played at home. Everton have been pretty poor away, and it looked pretty good pretty early on. Joao Felix got the first goal for Chelsea. Really nice shot along the ground, hit the far post and went in. Really nice goal. It was after a Chilwell cross that was cleared out. So Chilwell didn't get the assist, but he was really involved. And as you can see from the expected goal involvement, he had the second best XGI for Chelsea. Only one that had more is Kai Havertz, who got to take a penalty in the second half. But yeah, before that happened, Everton equalized with Doucouré, who scored from a corner. And then Havertz got the penalty. Reece James won the penalty pretty soon after Everton's goal in the second half. And then Havertz calmly scored the penalty. 2-1 for Chelsea, but Everton didn't give up. Doucouré again got an assist, so he got even more FPL points. He's been playing way more offensively. If you look at his average position the last few game weeks, he's been allowed to roam free going forward. And when he's done that in the past, he's actually been a decent FPL option. But Everton are not really a team to invest in, considering they don't have the double game week. They don't really have the best matches either. So, but it's just something to keep note of, that Doucouré might be a decent option in the future if you want a differential midfielder. You should never captain Doucouré, just to be clear. But anyways, the match ended up being 2-2. Chilwell should consider himself really unlucky not to get any goals or assists, but he's looking like a great option still. So even though people who took him out for a hit for Rico Henry lost 5 points from that move, if you did a -4, he's going to pay you back next game week. I'm pretty sure of it. So those are the matches. Let's move on to some of the standout players from this weekend. I've mentioned Saka. I'm not going to mention Saka again, but yeah, I talked a lot about Isak as well. Don't really have to talk that much about him, but he has great numbers, great fixtures, potential double game week in 31. It's still unsure, but it's looking more likely that it's going to be a double game week in 31, but at least they have extra fixtures, so eventually he's going to get more fixtures. So fixtures aren't the best, but they're also not the worst, so Isak is a great option, especially for his price and his low ownership. I'm kind of cheating. I have Erling Haaland here as well. I haven't mentioned City or him because they didn't play a Premier League game this weekend, but they played in the FA Cup. And even though they played Burnley, Burnley shouldn't be discounted, to be honest, because Burnley are the top team in the Championship. And considering how close the teams are between each other at the bottom of the Premier League, Burnley might be like the 12th best team in England right now. You don't really know because they're going to go up, and all the teams from 12 and below in the Premier League might go down. So Burnley are not the worst opposition, but Haaland scored a hat-trick. That's his 8th goal in the last 2 matches in terms of Champions League and the FA Cup. A lot of people sold him, so he's still 75% owned because everyone owns him. Everyone with a dead team owns him, but a lot of engaged managers, people that pay attention to FPL and do managers or do transfers every week, have sold Haaland. So he's actually kind of a differential now, playing against Liverpool at home next game week. So I think he's actually a great option to bring back if you sold him. And if you kept him, I think you might reap the rewards because the strikers that were brought in for him, sure, they scored points. Watkins scored points. Howard scored 8 points. Isak scored 13 points. But I think Haaland can get some points back in Game Week 29, even though he only has the 1 fixture. But at home to Liverpool and in the goal-scoring form that he is in, and in the form that Man City are in, I think it's not outside the realm of possibilities that I bring Haaland back into the team, even though I sold him for Isak. But anyways, I also mentioned Pedro Porro. Like I said, his stats are amazing. It says statistics last 4, but that's actually only from 3 starts. He played like a minute or a couple minutes in the 4th game. But since then, he's played 3 matches, 1 big chance, 4 shots in the box, 8 chances created. Great value for him. He only has a single game week, but it's against Everton. He has a really nice Game Week 31 fixture against Bournemouth as well. So he's looking like an amazing option, to be honest, going forward. But potentially not now in Game Week 29. But after that, you can definitely consider Porro as your defender, or as a potential defender to have. So those are some of the standout options. That is the weekend walkthrough. I'm Mathias. I'm still Mathias, and yeah, there's going to be some videos this week, but it's an international break now, so there's going to be kind of different content. Still haven't decided entirely what I'm going to do. What I'm likely going to do, I usually do like a weekly wildcard draft where I look at what I think is the best team in FPL going forward. But considering I can do that next week, this week I might actually do like a little twist on it. I might do a wildcard draft in terms of the players that I dislike the most, or hate the most, if I can use that word, this season. Like the players that have disappointed me the most this season, because there are a lot of players. I've actually made a 15-man squad of players that I've been so let down by this season, and it's been a really poor season for me. So I feel like I should let out some negativity while I can during the international break. But anyways, you can look forward to that. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll get that notification straight away. If you ring the bell as well. Sorry to beg you for subscriptions and stuff and likes, but anyways, that's what you do here on YouTube. But that's it for me. So I hope you've had an informative and fun video to watch, and I hope it gave you some nice information for the next few game weeks for FPL, because this is the home stretch in FPL. A lot of rank can be gained from the last few game weeks, and yeah, it's going to be interesting going forward. So yeah, look forward to weekly wildcard draft, kind of fun, different kind of weekly wildcard draft this week, and there will still be FPL podcast, FPL Scope podcast as well with Kevin and Kimo. Might discuss some broader topics in terms of Premier League as well. We might discuss the Conte thing more in detail. I've also thought about doing like a top 10 Premier League players currently, not FPL players, but Premier League players, because there are about 10-15 players that are standouts, I feel like, in the league right now, and it would be fun to have like a discussion with Kevin and Kimo about that. But anyways, I'm rambling. This video has gone on for too long. It's been half an hour now, so thank you, and goodbye.